What is going on, guys? It's Dan Man, aka Daniel's son, and it has been a minute since I've done a full on movie review, spoiler review, that is. So it's been a while since I've been in the game, and it seems like a lot of YouTubers have been circling around and dropping their reviews on a movie that's been out for at least a week already. So I'm surprised it's been so late in the game that a lot of these famous YouTubers are dropping their thoughts and what they thought about the flick, and that is Late Night with the Devil. I did dramatic effect right there. So here it's spoilers, a warning, because I do think a lot of people should watch this going in fresh, not even knowing that much about what is going to happen, that you're going to see. Even though I think that this is a movie not for everybody. I think the format, the way how everything looks in this film, and it's a slow burn, but there's a big payoff at the end of this film. I just don't think a lot of people are going to necessarily sit through this and say, "Oh, that was definitely worth the hype," because this is getting a very good rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of great word of mouth. A lot of people are calling it a instant classic of the horror genre. Now, do I think, in my opinion, do I believe that? I kind of do. And I kind of do think that it's a good kind of refreshness of something a little different that the horror genre is bringing instead of its usual, plot, usual storytelling that seems to happen and lazy filmmaking that I've seen over the years. But excuse me, I think this film is definitely a home run for the horror fans out there. It's just kind of a film that kind of stays with you, it sticks with you, and makes you question, was that really the ending of the film? Did this, is this like the imagery usually is really kind of lasered in your brain. So let's get into it. The lead actor, I think a lot of people will know him in a lot of small roles he's been in. He was in The Dark Knight, of course. Recently, I think he's gotten a lot more popularity from the last Suicide Squad movie where he was Polka Dot Man, and I thought he did fantastic. I'm not gonna butcher his last name, but his name is David. And for the sake, I'll call him Polka Dot Man in this review. No, I'll call him David. He kind of plays a Jimmy Carson or a late night TV host. Kind of like a Conan O'Brien, all these Jimmy Fallon, Jay Leno, but this is set in the 70s. So a lot of the aesthetics and a lot of the imagery in here is taking it back to the 70s. And watching this film, I was so impressed how were they were just absolutely able to capture that feel, that look. It looked just like I was watching a program from the 70s. And that's what I appreciate about this film, is that it really takes you on a journey, and it really sets the mood and sets the design wise of you watching like a late night show. That's exactly what the premise is. That's exactly what the setting is. And it made you feel that way. The only times I had a gripe with, which doesn't ruin the movie, but it's kind of like you could have done it another way, was the behind the scenes clean footage of what's going on between, after a lot of segments that are happening in the show, during the show. You have the psychic medium, you have the skeptic, which I thought that actor did a fantastic job. He's the one, I think, that because it's a slow burn type movie, you're very engaged with his ridicule towards what he's seen, trying to explain what he's seen. And there's one particular scene with the worms and David's co-host that is basically it's a horrific scene, but it's playing with your mind. The hypnosis scene, and it's kind of crazy because that hypnosis, that could, for me, I felt like that could actually still be the ending of the film, where everybody was hypnotized, and this is actually not the real ending. But you could take it either way. In my opinion, I think the ending is exactly what the ending presented, but there's a lot of ifs and maybes. He was fantastic. The girl who gets the exorcism and the whole cult thing, she nailed the look. She nailed just staring into your soul. And that was one of the creepy aspects of the film. It was it's a film that's just so intriguing, and you want to see how it builds and where it goes and what happens. And then, starting with the medium and starting with this shocking him contacting somebody who happened to be, I believe, I call him David, but Polka Dot's wife, Polka Dot Man's wife, basically his wife who passed with cancer and stuff. And then he kind of learned that he kind of made a deal with the devil. And I think the ending kind of speaks that he didn't expect for it to go this far. There had to be another sacrifice. And the sacrifice that was made was kind of like everybody that was surrounding him. It wasn't just one person like he thought would happen with his wife. It was more than that, because he did leave the limelight, and then he came back, and this is one of the programs that he was going to shoot him back to, or not actually take number one for the very first time. So there was a lot of stakes. There was a lot of a lot of these things were happening, and why he was pushing so much of what's going to occur in the movie with the medium. He's kind of like hiding that he doesn't outright say that was one of the secret names, like was it Millie or Mindy? That was one of the secret names that he gave his wife, that his wife had as her nickname. He doesn't outright say that was that. He just kind of waits, and then with that waiting and then the medium going to a shock and throwing up and then end up dying in the film, that's when we start really speeding ahead towards the climax. And then you get introduced to the cult, which I think they should have not kind of showcased the hosts, or David or Polka Dot Man's backstory. They should have kind of just basically kept it a little bit secret to the audience, to us. Like we could have had hints of something like cult-like was happening throughout the film, but I don't think it hurts the film. It's just, there is something, even though it's a unique showcase and unique story and everything's unique about it, there is some things that are not that unique, and there is some things that could have been a little bit more outside the box. But it does go outside the box when they have the setup of the money and people, or anybody proving the skeptic, like, this is not hocus pocus, that this is real, and him having a cash of $500,000. It's little things like that are setting up to the big things. When you present a gun, the gun has to fire at some point in the film. What they did was they presented a dagger, and the dagger showcased at the end when he sacrifices the little girl. So everything about this film just makes me kind of think and relive a lot of not only the terrifying final moments of the film, but just kind of the moments sprinkled throughout the film. I think one of the most saddest deaths in the movie was his co-host, who had 1,000 chances to leave, but he didn't. And then he stuck around and tried to do something that this little girl was being possessed, and he ended up dying. I mean, that poor man, he thought he had worms in him. He was hypnotized, and then he just gets his neck just absolutely cranked at the end of this film. I think the skeptic's death kind of saw it coming. I thought he was gonna burn to death because of the lighter that he had. He was smoking. He was playing this little trick. So I thought at some point something with fire was gonna happen to him. I think I would have liked a little something different on his death, but I was fine with it. The one image that I absolutely just stays in my mind is when the girl's head just splits open, and it looks like a Fooly Cooley kind of moment. And you just have this demon just wreaking havoc throughout the end of the film. And it's just, even though the special effects, it kind of works for the film because this was a low budget. It works for the aesthetic of the 70s. I think the special effects really hammers home at the end. I think her floating in the air, getting her caretaker and offing her off, and just this whole sequence of events that just kind of goes from, we're going a good 65 on the road, and then just immediately 100. So I thought that was a great visual and a great mind-bending kind of thing, and just made me think this whole week about that one particular part and how everything kind of came together. Soundtrack was good. I know a lot of people, a lot of controversy through the film. I'm not even going to talk about that. Everybody's been talking about it to death. But I think this film is something of a wonder. I think it's a great film. I think it's a great film for what we needed especially the beginning of the year, because all we do is get dog crap at the beginning of the year. So Late Night with the Devil, acting was on par. A lot of great standouts when it came to the acting part, especially our lead, who finally gets a leading man role. His he just really nailed it. I hope to see him more involved in a lot of different films, maybe in the horror genre itself, because he always plays wacky characters, but this one he actually played a straight man, and he did a fantastic job. David did a fantastic job. Polka Dot Man. It's a film, guys. It's a film that stuck with me, so I wanted to give my thoughts on it. If I had to rate it, I would rate it an 8 out of 10. I can't go 10 out of 10 classic like that. It's a classic. It's a modern classic, but it's not a 10 out of 10 with me, because there is some elements, like I said earlier on in this review, where I would have changed a little bit, where I thought, why didn't they change? Maybe there is they kind of had to rush production or something, but it just didn't make sense to me why they would go a certain routes on certain things. But an 8 out of 10, a solid 8 out of 10. I would even say 8.5, but it's a movie I definitely recommend going to watch, and I think it's catching fire already. A lot of people are talking about it, and I think it deserves a lot of praise, and it's a great accomplishment from the crew and everybody else. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, grab a tick, grab a seat. Make sure you got some good popcorn to eat. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time.